Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel.
Today, we're talking about something that's incredibly important for our well-being, but often gets overlooked: setting boundaries. Now, I know that might sound a little intense or even selfish to some of you, but trust me, it's not about pushing people away. It's about making sure you take care of yourself, so you can show up as your best self in every area of your life. So, if you've ever struggled with saying no, felt overwhelmed by other people's expectations, or even lost track of what you really need, this video is for you. Let me tell you a quick story. A few years ago, I was running myself into the ground. I was saying yes to everything: extra work projects, social commitments, helping out friends, even when I was exhausted. And at the same time, I wasn't taking care of myself. I didn't have time for my hobbies, I wasn't sleeping enough, and honestly, my emotional health was on a roller coaster. Then one day, I realized I was letting everyone else's needs come before my own, and it was affecting my happiness and well-being. So, I started researching, and that's when I stumbled upon the idea of a boundary bucket list. So, what is a boundary bucket list? It's just like any other bucket list, a list of things you want to do before you kick the bucket. But instead of activities, it's all about setting boundaries in your life to protect your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Think of it as a tool for creating space for what really matters to you. Now, I know boundaries might sound like a buzzword, but they're actually a game changer when it comes to self-care. Healthy boundaries are essential because they help us preserve our emotional energy and create a sense of control over our lives. Here's the thing. There's a big difference between healthy and unhealthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries protect us from feeling drained, stressed, and overwhelmed. Unhealthy boundaries, on the other hand, often lead to burnout, resentment, and a lack of personal space. For example, maybe you find it hard to say no at work even though you're already overloaded. Or maybe you feel like you can't turn down social events because you don't want to disappoint anyone. Those are areas where boundaries often get blurred. But here's the thing, setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's about protecting your emotional health so you can show up for others in a healthy way, too. When we fail to set boundaries, we end up stretched thin and unable to focus on what truly brings us joy or fulfillment. Okay, so how do we actually create this boundary bucket list? I want you to take a moment and think about your life. Are there areas where you feel overwhelmed or overcommitted? Maybe it's at work, in your friendships, or even in your own family dynamics. Once you've identified these areas, think about the boundaries you want to set in those spaces. Maybe you need to limit your work hours. Maybe you need to give yourself permission to say no to certain social events, or maybe you need to carve out time for yourself, away from everyone else. It could be something like, I will stop answering work emails after 7 p.m. Or, I will only commit to one social event per weekend. Simple, but effective. Here are some examples to help inspire you. I will say no when I'm feeling overwhelmed. I will make time for self-care every week. I will communicate my needs clearly and assertively. Now that you've got your list, it's time to put those boundaries into action. This is where the rubber hits the road. A few key strategies here. First, communicate your needs. Be clear and direct. It's not always easy, but it's necessary. Another tip, it's okay to say no without feeling guilty. Trust me, I get it. But remember, saying no is saying yes to your peace of mind. You have every right to protect your time and energy. And don't be afraid to set limits. You can set time limits on how long you'll engage in certain activities or set emotional limits around certain conversations. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. When you start setting boundaries, there might be some resistance or pushback from others. But guess what? That's okay. Stay firm and be patient with yourself. Establishing healthy boundaries takes time, and that's perfectly fine. So, what are the benefits of setting these boundaries? Well, first off, your mental and emotional health will thank you. By honoring your needs, you will feel less stressed, more grounded, and more present. You'll also have more time for personal growth, for the things that truly matter to you. I've personally experienced it. When I started setting boundaries, my self-esteem went up. I stopped feeling like I had to please everyone, and my relationships improved too, because I was able to show up as my authentic self. And that's the power of boundaries. They create space for you to be the best version of yourself, and that's something worth celebrating. So, I challenge you to create your own boundary bucket list and start putting it into action. It might be tough at first, but remember, you deserve to prioritize your well-being. Celebrate each small victory along the way, and continue building boundaries that will empower you. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need this message today. Until next time, take care and set those boundaries.